James Carter, known to his neighbors as JD, was a man who carried silence like a second skin. At 42, he moved through Atlanta's Mechanicsville neighborhood with the kind of calm that made people look twice, not out of fear, but curiosity. His hands, calloused from years of wrenching engines at his small auto shop, bore scars that didn't come from slipped tools. His eyes, deep brown and unyielding, held stories he never told, not even to the men who shared beers with him at the corner bar on Friday nights. JD was a father first, a mechanic second, and something else entirely in the spaces he didn't let anyone see. In the pre-dawn light of a humid June morning in 2025, JD stood in his garage, the smell of oil and metal grounding him. The shop was his sanctuary, a place where he could fix what was broken, unlike the world outside. A single bulb flickered above, casting shadows across his workbench, where a photo of his daughter, Maya, sat propped against a toolbox. She was 16 now, all sharp wit and fearless heart, her smile a mirror of her late mother's. JD's chest tightened as he traced the frame with his thumb, remembering the promise he'd made when Maya was born, to keep her safe from the wars he'd left behind. He'd been a Navy SEAL once, a ghost in the machine of covert ops, codenamed Echo Zero. In Yemen, he'd dragged 3 children from a burning compound, their screams louder than the gunfire that took his teammates. The mission broke him, not the blood, but the choice to save civilians over soldiers. He retired at 30, swearing to Maya's mother, Aisha, that he'd never kill again. Aisha's cancer took her 4 years later, leaving JD to raise Maya alone, guided by a crayon drawing she'd made at 6, a stick figure of him with a red cape, labeled, "My Dad, the hero who doesn't hurt people." Today, Maya was at school, leading a rally against racial profiling by local cops. JD's jaw clenched at the thought. He'd taught her to stand tall, but every protest felt like a gamble with her safety. Atlanta's streets were tense, patrols heavier since the latest wave of unrest. He checked his phone, no texts from Maya yet. She always messaged after rallies. His gut stirred, a soldier's instinct he couldn't shake. He was torquing a bolt when his phone buzzed, not with a text but a FaceTime call. Maya's name lit the screen. He answered, her face filling the frame, her braids swinging as she walked down a cracked sidewalk. "Dad, rally went great," she said, her voice bright but rushed. "Cops showed up, though. I'm heading home with Sarah." "Stay sharp, baby girl," JD said, his tone steady but laced with worry. "Text me when you're close." "Always do," she grinned, then froze. Behind her, a voice barked, "Hey, you. Stop right there." JD's heart lurched. The camera tilted, catching 2 white officers, Ryan Walsh and Mark Brennan, approaching, hands on holsters. Maya's voice stayed calm. "Officer, I'm just walking home." "ID, now," Walsh snapped, stepping closer. JD's grip tightened, his breath shallow. Maya reached for her phone case, slow and deliberate. "It's right here." "Hands up." Brennan shouted. The screen shook. A muzzle flashed. Maya's gasp cut through JD like a blade. The phone fell, her face replaced by pavement, blood pooling near the lens. JD's roar filled the garage, raw and primal, as her name tore from his throat. "Maya." Across the street, a woman screamed, groceries spilling. A homeless vet yelled, "She didn't do anything." JD's world narrowed to the phone's cracked screen, his daughter's breath fading, her eyes wide with shock. Walsh muttered, "Another one trying to play hero," as sirens wailed in the distance. JD didn't move, didn't blink. His hands shook, not with fear but with a fury he'd buried for a decade. The SEAL in him woke, not with a shout but a whisper, cold and precise. He didn't know yet that Brennan, not Walsh, had pulled the trigger. He didn't know the system would try to erase Maya's name. All he knew was the weight of his promise, broken, and the man he'd once been, rising like a storm no one saw coming. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and lies. J.D. Carter stood at the ICU desk, his 6-foot frame a quiet monolith in the sterile chaos. Nurses darted past, clipboards clacking, while a security guard eyed him from the corner, hand twitching near his radio. J.D.'s face was a mask, but his eyes burned, scanning every detail: the flickering fluorescent light, the smudged nameplate on the receptionist's desk, the blank security monitor that should have shown the hall where Maya lay. "Is she alive?" His voice was low, a blade wrapped in velvet. The receptionist, a woman with brittle blonde hair, froze mid-type, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. She glanced at the doctor beside her, a man with a clipboard and a sneer that didn't match his scrubs. "Sir, we're doing everything we can," the doctor said, his tone clipped, practiced. The girl, behavioral agitation noted, possible combative tendencies. "We're monitoring." J.D.'s jaw tightened. "Her name's Maya Johnson. 16. Honor roll. Shot in the chest by a cop. That's not agitation. That's trauma." His words landed like stones, each one heavier than the last. The doctor shifted, his arrogance faltering under J.D.'s gaze, a look that didn't threaten but promised. The receptionist cleared her throat. "Hospital policy, sir. If you're here to cause trouble, you'll be escorted out." Her pen tapped the desk, a nervous rhythm. J.D. didn't respond. His silence was louder, a soldier's reflex honed in rooms where words meant nothing and actions carved truth. He stepped closer to the glass separating him from the ICU. Maya was there, a small figure under white sheets, tubes snaking from her arms. A monitor beeped, out of sync with the fury in J.D.'s chest. Her name wasn't on the chart, just F-16, case 4723. They'd already started erasing her. His fingers twitched, muscle memory from a life he'd left behind, but he stilled them. "Not here. Not yet." The doctor tried again. "You don't understand the pressure we're under. We're following protocol." J.D. turned, his eyes pinning the man like a target. "You know paperwork. I know loss. Don't lecture me on pressure." The doctor's laugh died in his throat, a shallow sound swallowed by the hallway's hum. J.D. memorized their faces, the doctor's name tag, the receptionist's nervous tick, the guard's shifting stance. He didn't need a notebook, his mind was a vault, trained to hold names, dates, sins. He turned back to the glass, Maya's chest rising faintly, each breath a defiance he hadn't earned. Guilt clawed at him. He'd promised Aisha he'd keep Maya safe, promised Maya he'd be her hero without blood. He'd failed. A TV in the waiting area droned, muted, showing a news ticker: teen injured in police altercation, investigation ongoing. No mention of bullets, no mention of Maya. J.D.'s hands curled into fists, but his face stayed stone. He'd seen this before, systems swallowing truth, rewriting it into something soft and forgettable. Not this time. He left the hospital without a word, his boots echoing on the tile. Outside, Atlanta's air was thick, the city's pulse unsteady. Protests were already forming, signs bobbing in the distance: justice for Maya. J.D. didn't join them. He walked to his truck, pulled out a burner phone, and dialed a number he hadn't used in years. It rang once. "You still breathing, brother?" J.D.'s voice was steady, but the question carried a decade of trust. A pause, then a gruff reply. "Was hoping I'd never hear this number." The line went dead. J.D. didn't need more. The call was a signal, a ripple in a network of men who'd once moved mountains in silence. He drove back to his shop, the city blurring past, his mind already mapping what came next: not vengeance, but reckoning. The precinct hummed with a nervous energy, like a hive sensing a storm. Officer Ryan Walsh sat in the break room, his coffee cooling, his fingers drumming on the table. Across from him, Mark Brennan leaned back, wiping his baton on his sleeve, his face unreadable. The TV above them looped a sanitized news report: Atlanta PD responds to teen altercation. No names, no blood, just procedure. Walsh's smirk faded as a rookie officer, Jenkins, burst in, his face pale. "Sirs, you seen this?" Jenkins held up his phone, a grainy video playing, Maya's shooting, her phone's camera catching the muzzle flash, her gasp, JD's scream through FaceTime. It had surfaced on a local forum, already shared 1,000 times. Brennan's eyes narrowed. "Flag it. Get it down." His voice was calm, but his hand tightened on the baton. Walsh stood, his chair scraping. "It's one clip. We've handled worse." But they hadn't. By noon, the video was gone, scrubbed from platforms with a community guidelines excuse, but the damage was done. Hashtags like #JusticeForMaya trended, and vigils sprang up outside the precinct. Walsh felt the air shift, a pressure he couldn't name. J.D. Carter wasn't at the protests. He was in a basement 2 miles away, a space he hadn't touched since leaving the SEALs. The walls were bare, save for a map of Atlanta pinned with red thread. A steel case sat open, revealing no weapons, just a badge, a set of dog tags, and a list of names, one circled, Walsh. JD's hands moved with precision, pulling a laptop from a hidden panel. His fingers danced across the keys, accessing encrypted channels no civilian should know. He'd spent years burying Echo Zero, but Maya's blood had unearthed him. The first leak was small, a body cam clip from Walsh, 2 years old, showing him slamming a black teen against a car hood for loitering. JD sent it to a local journalist, Cal Monroe, with no signature, just a timestamp. By evening, it aired on Channel 7, the anchor's voice shaking as she read the caption, "Is this who protects us?" Walsh's phone buzzed with texts from colleagues, "You see the news?" He didn't answer. Brennan called him to the precinct's war room, where Chief Reynolds waited, his face carved from stone. "Contain it," Reynolds said. "Procedure. Paperwork. Same as always." But JD wasn't done. That night, he sent a second leak, an internal memo detailing race-aligned patrol routes. It hit Reddit at midnight, spreading like wildfire. Protesters outside the precinct grew louder, their signs now reading, "White Hand," a symbol JD hadn't created but understood, memory, not mercy. In the hospital, Maya stirred, her eyes fluttering open. A nurse adjusted her avoiding her gaze. Maya's voice was weak but sharp. "Where's my dad?" The nurse hesitated, then lied, "He's been here. He'll be back." Maya's fingers clutched the crayon drawing under her blanket, its edges stained with her blood. She didn't cry. She waited, knowing JD was out there, rewriting the rules to keep his promise. Atlanta burned with quiet rage. The White Hand graffiti bloomed on walls, bridges, even squad cars, open palms in white paint, silent but screaming. JD Carter watched from the shadows, his burner phone buzzing with encrypted updates from old SEAL contacts. He didn't orchestrate the symbol, but he fed its fire. Last night's leak, a spreadsheet of Walsh and Brennan's schedules, every unlogged stop marked, had hit the dark web, then mainstream news. Reporters swarmed the precinct, shouting questions Chief Reynolds dodged with no comment. Walsh was unraveling. In the precinct locker room, he found his schedule taped inside his locker, a red marker circling a date, the day Maya was shot. No note, just the phrase, "Which minute do you regret?" He tore it down, his hands shaking, but the cameras caught his shadow fleeing. Brennan, stoic as ever, felt it too. His patrol car's license plate was etched backward, a mirror of his guilt. He drove in silence, scanning for eyes that weren't there. JD sat in his basement, a single lantern casting light on his map. Red threads now connected Walsh, Brennan, and others, a sergeant who'd buried complaints, a tech who'd scrubbed body cam footage. JD's leaks were surgical, each one peeling back the precinct's skin. A new video surfaced, Walsh laughing as he kicked a homeless man, calling it street cleaning. The public's fury grew, vigils turning to marches, the white hand on every sign. Cal Monroe, the journalist, dug deeper, meeting a contact in a parking garage, an ex-FBI analyst named Paxton. "Carter's not just a dad," Paxton whispered, his cigarette trembling. "He's a ghost. Echo 0. If he's moving, the system's already bleeding." Cal's next article, "The Man Who Makes Precincts Flinch," went viral, though JD never read it. He was too busy planning the next drop, a 2019 memo on quota-driven policing, signed by Reynolds. In the hospital, Maya's strength flickered. She gripped her drawing, its red cape smudged with blood. A nurse, kinder than the rest, slipped her a phone. Maya watched a live stream of the protests, her lips curving faintly. "He's out there," she whispered, not to the nurse but to herself. Her pain was constant, but so was her faith in JD, not as a killer, but as her hero. JD's heart ached for her, but he couldn't stop. He sent a message to Walsh's personal email, "No trace, I know where you sleep. I know who matters more than your badge." Walsh didn't sleep that night, his wife's photo trembling in his hands. Brennan, too, found a wooden box in his mailbox, rusted handcuffs, a plaque reading, "This time is earned." Their world was shrinking, and JD was the architect. Lucas Reed woke in a motel off I-85, his head pounding, his wallet gone. The room was cheap, the air stale with regret. His phone glowed white, no apps, just text, recognition revoked. Reed's breath caught. He'd sold JD's location 2 days ago to a shadowy fixer, trading his old teammate for a clean slate on his gambling debts. He thought he'd buried it under encryption. He was wrong. JD Carter didn't rage. He erased. Reed stumbled to the motel clerk, who shrugged. "No record of you checking in." His cash was flagged, his ID snapped in half. At a bank, the ATM blinked, identity unknown. Reed's world dissolved, not with a bullet but a keystroke. JD had reached into his life and pulled it apart, leaving him a ghost. Years ago, Reed had abandoned JD's unit in Yemen, fleeing as flames consumed their teammates. He'd lived with the guilt, drowning it in casinos, but betraying JD again was a step too far. A mirror in the motel bathroom fogged, words appearing, "You sold trust, not blood. Live without value." Reed screamed, clawing at the glass, but no one came. JD's voice played in his mind, a memory from their SEAL days, "Loyalty isn't a choice. It's a debt." Back in Atlanta, JD's campaign intensified. A new leak, body cam footage of Brennan shoving an elderly woman during a protest, hit the news. Protests swelled, the white hand now a national symbol. JD worked alone, his basement a war room of threads and screens. He paused only to check Maya's status through a nurse he'd bribed. She was stable, but not walking. His guilt gnawed, but her drawing, her hero's cape, kept him focused. Reed, meanwhile, staggered to a precinct, begging for help. "I'm Lucas Reed, ex-SEAL," he pleaded. The desk officer typed, then frowned. "No record, sir." An older cop overheard, his eyes narrowing. "Echo Zero's unit? That's a myth." Reed's knees buckled. JD hadn't killed him, he'd unmade him. In the hospital, Maya dreamt of her mother, Aisha, whispering, "He's still your hero." She woke clutching her drawing, her resolve hardening. Outside, the city chanted her name, but she only wanted JD, safe, not stained by blood. JD, miles away, stared at Reed's name on his list, crossed out. Not vengeance, but justice. He turned back to his laptop, the next leak ready to drop. The precinct was a fortress under siege, not by fists, but by truth. At 8:03 a.m., a server crash lit up the Department of Judicial Integrity screens, files unpacking like ghosts, redacted memos, doctored reports, budgets hiding payouts to silence victims. Each bore a tag, SRZ, Silent Redemption Zone. J.D. Carter's handiwork, though his name never appeared. By noon, a video leaked, Walsh, in 2018, tossing a brick through a store window, laughing as he reported a riot. It hit 11 million views, the white hand hashtag exploding. Lawsuits piled up, city councils froze, and the precinct's PR team stammered through deepfake claims that no one believed. J.D. watched from his basement, his face lit by a laptop's glow, his fingers steady as he cued the next drop, a 2019 memo titled Minority Overpolicing Metrics. Walsh and Brennan felt the noose tighten. Walsh's locker held a new note, "Your family's safe. Are you?" Brennan's patrol car wouldn't start, its dashboard flashing a single word, "Remember." Their routines, lunch breaks, gym visits, were online, every minute a public confession. Walsh stopped sleeping, his wife's worried eyes haunting him. Brennan's smirk faded, replaced by a twitch he couldn't hide. In the hospital, Maya gripped her phone, watching a live stream of a vigil. Hundreds held white hand signs, her name on their lips. She whispered, "Dad, be careful." A nurse, moved by her courage, slipped her a note from J.D., "I'm keeping my promise." Maya's heart swelled, but fear lingered. He was her hero, but heroes could fall. Cal Monroe's article, "The Ghost of Atlanta," named J.D. as Echo Zero, a myth turned real. It sparked debates, vigilante or savior? J.D. didn't care. He sent a final leak to Cal, a frame from Maya's shooting, showing Brennan's gun, not Walsh's. It aired at 10 p.m., the anchor's voice cracking, "New evidence suggests Officer Brennan fired the shot." Brennan fled that night, his badge left behind, but J.D.'s old SEAL protocol caught him at a Buffalo airstrip. In interrogation, he muttered, "I aimed to stop, not kill. They trained us for reflex, not reason." The transcript leaked, igniting fury. J.D., in his basement, stared at Maya's drawing, her question echoing, "Did you kill them?" He hadn't, but the system was bleeding, and that was enough. J.D. Carter crossed a desert threshold, the air heavy with sand and secrets. The compound, hidden in Nevada's wastelands, wasn't on any map, a sanctuary for ghosts like him. A field medic, Sam Torres, met him at the door, his eyes worn but warm. "You're late, Echo," Sam said, no smile, just truth. "Not late enough," J.D. replied, his voice steady but raw. They didn't embrace, warriors didn't need to. Sam led him through sterile halls to a room marked Silent Redemption Zone. Maya lay there, alive but fragile, her chest rising under soft sheets. Tubes framed her, but her fingers clutched the crayon drawing, J.D.'s red cape, stained with her blood. J.D. froze, his breath catching. He'd faced death in Fallujah, but this, his daughter, broken by a world he couldn't shield, cut deeper. He sat beside her, brushing her hair, his calloused fingers trembling. "I was supposed to keep the war away," he whispered, a tear falling, unbidden. "I failed." Maya stirred hours later, her eyes finding his. No smile, just a long, searching look, like she was piecing together the father she'd lost to silence. "Did you kill them?" she asked, her voice ashen steel. J.D.'s jaw tightened. He looked away, not in shame but restraint, and said nothing. She nodded, understanding his silence as a vow kept. "It stayed with me," she said, touching the drawing. "Even when I was alone." J.D.'s throat burned. "I shouldn't have let you meet this America." She squeezed his hand, weak but fierce. "You're still my hero, even if the cape's torn." Sam returned with scans, his voice low. "She's stable, J.D., but she won't walk again." J.D. nodded, no rage, just resolve. He read Sam's note, "She asked for you every day." It broke him, but it also rebuilt him. Maya was his mission now, not the system. That evening, Maya asked, "Will we go home?" JD hesitated, then said, "This is home for now." She closed her eyes. "It's quiet." He nodded. "That's the point." Outside, Atlanta raged, but here, in this hidden room, they were just father and daughter, rebuilding what the world had tried to erase. Atlanta's streets pulsed with defiance. The white hand wasn't just graffiti now, it was on shirts, banners, projected onto courthouses. J.D. Carter's leaks had cracked the system's facade, and the city was prying it open. A new drop hit, a PDF from a 2019 meeting, Strategic Enforcement Targeting, outlining race-based policing quotas. It trended within hours, graffitied as "Justice is a Business" on City Hall. Walsh tried to apologize on a live stream, his tears unconvincing, his voice breaking. "I was scared, okay? I followed protocol." The chat tore him apart. "Scared?" Maya didn't get a second chance. Clips of his sobs, remixed with Maya's scream, went viral. He vanished, his name a meme, his badge a relic. Brennan, detained in Buffalo, sat in a cell, his confession leaked. "They trained us for reflex, not restraint." It sparked debates, not about guilt, but design. Who trains a trigger to fire before a mind can think? Protests shifted from anger to audits, citizens demanding body cam reviews, budget transparency. JD stayed with Maya in the Nevada safe house, her recovery slow but stubborn. She painted now, her canvases stark, bent streetlights, empty gloves, no faces. "Justice isn't a face," she told JD, her voice firm despite her pain. He nodded, taping her old drawing to his notebook, a shield against the war he'd fought. Cal Monroe's articles kept JD's myth alive, dubbing him the Silent Ledger. A rookie cop, inspired by JD, leaked a precinct memo on perception management, exposing plans to scapegoat Walsh. It backfired, fueling more white hand vigils. JD didn't watch the news, but he felt the ripples, his silence louder than any speech. One night, Maya asked, "Do they still fear you?" JD looked at her, his eyes soft but unyielding. "They remember." "That's better." She smiled, faint but real. Outside, the system flinched, resignations piled, policies rewrote, and the white hand spread, a reminder that truth, once seen, couldn't be erased. J.D. Carter and Maya moved to a cabin in rural Georgia, pine trees shielding them from the world's noise. The air was clean, the silence earned. J.D. tilled a garden, tomatoes, spinach, marigolds, his hands finding rhythm in soil, not strategy. Maya painted beside him, her wheelchair crunching gravel, her canvases growing bolder, red skies, white hands, no faces, just echoes. The white hand had become a movement. In Atlanta, it was stenciled on court benches, projected on precincts. Nationwide, it sparked audits, lawsuits, new training manuals with lines like, "An oath is a mirror, not a shield." JD and Maya stayed offline, but the world found them. Reporters camped at the fence, shouting, "Are you a hero?" JD never answered. He mailed back a recorder one left behind, with a note, "Leave. Let's grow." Maya's strength grew, her hands steady as she painted. One evening, she showed JD a canvas, a white hand over a red field, a bent glove at its base. "It's not about you," she said. "It's about what stays." JD's chest tightened. She was 16, but her eyes held a wisdom he hadn't earned. Walsh resurfaced in a small town, his face scarred, his name forgotten. A mural of his cruiser, tires missing, haunted him, not stalled, surrounded. Brennan, in a secure facility, saw his confession quoted in a textbook, his smirk a case study in systemic failure. Neither mattered anymore. The system was rewriting itself, not for them, but because of JD's silence. JD wrote in his notebook nightly, each page starting with Maya's name. "Justice is the space after," he scrawled, her drawing taped inside. Neighbors called him the quiet gardener. He didn't correct them. One day, a boy at the fence asked, "Who are you?" JD knelt. A father keeping a promise. The boy smiled, not understanding but feeling it. Maya's activism lived in her art, shipped anonymously to galleries, each piece signed, White Hand. JD planted marigolds, remembering Maya at 5, pressing them into books. The world moved on, but their soil held the weight of memory, growing roots no one could uproot. The Georgia cabin stood quiet under a starlit sky, its porch creaking as J.D. Carter sat beside Maya. She was 17 now, her wheelchair a partner, not a cage. Her latest painting leaned against the railing, a white hand over a cracked sidewalk, a marigold sprouting through the fracture. "It's done," she said, her voice steady. J.D. nodded, his eyes tracing the canvas, seeing not just art but her defiance, her survival. Atlanta had changed. Police academies taught the Carter Protocol, a code of accountability born from J.D.'s leaks. The White Hand was global, etched on walls from Chicago to Cape Town, a symbol of memory over mercy. Walsh lived in obscurity, his name a cautionary tale in ethics classes. Brennan's confession fueled reforms, his cell a reminder that reflex wasn't an excuse. The system hadn't fallen, but it had flinched, and that flinch rewrote laws, budgets, trusts. J.D. no longer carried a burner phone. He mailed back his seal badge, his dog tags, his commendations, each with a note, "Return this to someone who believed." His notebook, filled with Maya's name, held one final line: "Silence is not empty when it carries truth." He gardened daily, marigolds wild and free, like the girl who'd pressed them into books. Maya's art sparked a movement. Her anonymous pieces, signed White Hand, hung in galleries, inspiring young activists. She read letters from strangers, kids who saw her story, parents who feared for their own. "They remember," she told J.D. one night, her eyes bright. He smiled, soft and scarred. "That's better than fear." One morning, a girl at a school far away asked, "Why no statue for J.D. Carter?" Her teacher replied, "Because justice doesn't stand still. It walks." In the cabin, J.D. and Maya didn't hear it, but they lived it. He pruned tomatoes, she painted, and the soil held their promise, to grow where others burned. The world still raged, sirens sang, systems creaked, but here, they were whole. J.D. looked at Maya, her hands steady, her heart unbroken. "You're my hero," he said, voice cracking. She grinned, her mother's smile. "Took you long enough to catch up. This story isn't just ours, it's yours. You walked with J.D. and Maya through blood, silence, and marigolds, through a system that flinched and a memory that stood firm. Thank you for staying, for listening, for carrying the White Hand in your heart. If their fight moved you, hit that subscribe button and join Revenge Ties, where every story is a plate of truth, served raw and real. Like, share, comment, let the world know justice grows where memory takes root. Keep planting your own truth, and I'll meet you at the table.